Okay, so let's get started. Hi everyone, I'm Linda Reed-Enever. Welcome to our BBB Skills webinar. We are luckily to being joined today by Micheal Chen from Snipply, who's going to show us how to add call to actions to every link that we share on social media. Maybe not everyone, because there's steps. I know I'm most probably lazy enough not to do it all the time, but to add call to actions when you're sharing other people's content, your blog posts, and the power of sharing content. So Micheal, I'd like to say hi and welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me. Very excited to talk about some of the things that we built. As you've said, adding a call to action to links is something that people don't really think about. I guess when you're sharing a link, you don't really think about how your brand fits relative to the link that you're sharing. And hopefully Snipply will give you some ideas on how you can tie your content curation with a higher return on investment for your efforts.
That's what we're all looking for in the long run, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, content curation is a lot of effort. And so you want to make sure that you get something in return for all that work that you put into it.
Exactly. Now, guys, I am sharing a couple of the Facebook live streams, but if you are watching the Facebook live, the one thing I would like to say to you all is we don't get to follow the live feed without having an incredibly bad echo coming back, and no one wants that. So we will be answering questions via the webinar chat. So if you're here, by all means, ask us any questions that you would possibly like via the chat on the way through. Mike and I will answer them. We will then come back to the live feed stream afterwards, after the webinar, and answer questions there, won't we, Mike?
Yeah, feel free to cut me off at any time. You want to ask any questions?
Beautiful.
Do so.
Oh, gotta love live stream. You get ambulance sirens and all sorts of things in the background.
I'll try and mute whenever an ambulance passes by. That's what you get for working downtown, right?
I was going to say that's downtown. You just got to live with it. Okay, so Mike, why don't I hand over to you, let you get started and let you tell us a little bit about Snipply and how we can use it in our businesses and why we would even want to use it in the first place, I suppose.
Sure, I'll just give a brief introduction of why we started building Snipply in the first place, and then I'll start off a screen share and show you guys how it works and what you can do with it. And so the core idea is that content creation is very important. Blogging, creating engaging content, but of course the major challenge is it's hard to do. You might share a tweet and it disappears after 10 minutes, so how do you keep up with that level of activity on social media? So the natural answer is you produce a vast amount of original, authentic content. So if you can pump out 100 quality blog posts a day, you're golden. You'll be able to get lots of engagements, and that's fine. But of course, the natural
challenge. The person who can do that.
The natural problem is, of course, we can't. Oftentimes, I have trouble even writing one blog post a week, maybe one every 2 weeks. And so what the kind of marketing ecosystem have evolved into is something called content curation. For those who are unfamiliar, creating content is delivering value to your audience by generating original content and posting it out there, sharing with your audience. But curation is helping the users, helping your audience and followers filter through the endless noise of the internet, reading lots of articles about things that your audience cares about, picking and choosing what you think would be most valuable to them, and then sharing them, curating that content and sharing it with them. Of course, the natural challenge after that is, well, what is the return on investment for sharing other people's content? Because after all, you're driving all of the traffic to a website that's not your own. That's where Snipply comes in, and that's the problem that we're trying to solve. So if anybody has any questions about the premise, go ahead and ask now, but I will dive into the screen share and talk a bit about what Snipply actually does in practical terms.
Yay! So guys, from content creation point of view, this is especially, and this is most probably what does tie back into the change. And Mike, you can bring us up because we can talk at the same time and bring screen share up. It's about sharing other people's content, but it's also about, by sharing other people's content, you also build your authority. So it's about, being able to show that you actually do read and you do share information, you do keep ahead of trends within the industry. So it's all about good things. And that was what the algorithm was saying. If you're going, the algorithm changes, and that's what Facebook is saying, meaningful content, meaningful conversation, which means sharing.
Yeah, one prime example is the fact that Facebook has changed its algorithm. Where did you first hear about it?
Yeah.
You might not subscribe to every one of Facebook's press releases, but maybe you follow one or two influencers and thought leaders in the space that inform you of these things. They filter down all the noise, all the things that I'm sure Facebook has made many changes in the past 2 days. But what you care most about is the algorithm change, and that's what influencers and thought leaders do for you. And you can be that thought leader for other people to be able to deliver the most relevant information to people at the right time.
Yeah.
So I'll dive right in here. You can see my screen share, right? If
I
anybody has,
can see your screen. Guys, Mike can't see the chat box, but I can. So if you do pop a
okay,
question in, feel
great.
free. We'll come and answer them.
Great. So Simply is all about adding a call to action to every link you share. And you'll see in the little subline here is Simply is not a new product. It was launched a couple of years ago. We have over, I think this is probably outdated. We have probably 200,000 users now. These are all marketers who are looking to drive conversions through their content curation efforts. And how it works is that it allows you to add a call to action to the link you share. And it's hard to kind of wrap your head around what that means. So I'll quickly launch up a demo here. I'll just open up a link. So here's the background story. A couple of years ago, we were featured on entrepreneur.com as you got to add these 12 content marketing tools to your startup's arsenal. And of course, we want to share that link. And we are on item number 7. And so as you can imagine, we want to share this link on Twitter. We want to post it on Facebook, wherever is relevant. We want to make sure everybody gets to read this article. But at the same time, entrepreneur.com is not really going to go out of their way to brand Snipply or make sure there's clear call to actions. Maybe we'll get a hyperlinked text like we do here. But what we want ultimately is we want the users to read this article, engage with our brand, and maybe ultimately sign up for our product or at least visit our page. So you'll see that using Snipply, I've added a call to action, which you'll see in the bottom left corner here. And let me know if you guys see it as well.
Yeah.
The bottom left corner is a blue box that I've added using Snipply that says add a call to action to every link you share. I've included a button that links back to our landing page. That way, when people read this link, when they see this article, not only can they read the contents, they'll actually get a bit of our brand awareness in the bottom left corner. It's using our brand color. It has a button linking directly to our landing page. And that's what we mean by adding a call to action to the link you share. And you'll see that this whole page it's entrepreneur.com. It's the article, everything is there. The only thing that's different, the only thing that we added using Snipply is the call to action in the bottom left corner. So I'll show you how to do that using Snipply. Of course, you'll have your own use case, I imagine. Here is what we call earned media. If you've been published on some sort of publication, you want to share the link and make sure that your call to actions are visible. That's how you can use Snipply. But lots of people curate content and they'll add maybe if you have a free ebook, you want to add a download link directly on the links that you share. Every marketer has a call to action or multiple call to actions at any given time. If you're a realtor, you've got listings, you want to send people to your sales page, you want people to book a consultation, there's an infinite number of call to actions, and Snipply gives you the control to be able to put that on the links that you share. Before I dive into how you can do that, I just wanted to show you a few quick examples. This is one of my favorite, the Jolly Green Giants. Their call to action is your favorite fall classics, deliciously and simply brought to you by Green Giants. And they have a link to find more of their fall recipes. So you can see that it's not just about selling your product. You can be sharing content that you have created. You can link back to your blog, for example, by sharing an article that's relevant to your audience. Yep. Here's an example, another example, Jenny Craig. Let Jenny Craig help manage your weight loss. And you can click on the button to go to their Get Started page. Here's a Motor Trend. Honda's sharing an article about a new vehicle. Of course, they have a call to action that's search your local Honda dealers. Contact us today. And these are just different call to actions. I wanted to get your creative juices flowing, inspirations for what your call to action could look like and where you could potentially share that. So I'm going to reverse engineer what I've shown you here. I'm going to go to the original link. So let's say this is the entrepreneur.com article. Of course, as it is organically, it doesn't have your branding, it doesn't have your call to action. What you normally do is you would just share this link and people would read it and they may find your product, they may not. What we want to do now is to use Snipply to make sure that they're aware what Snipply is and how they can sign up for it. So I'm going to go ahead and log into my dashboard here and start creating a link. And so you'll see here, and I'll go much deeper into the analytics later on, because that's where the real powerful stuff comes in. It's the ROI, it's the analytics and the stats. But in the left top corner, you'll see here, enter a URL. For anyone who's used link shorteners before, like Bitly, it works very much the same way. So if you put in an article, in this case, I'm using the entrepreneur.com. So I'm just going to copy the URL, entrepreneur.com/article 247234. This is the article that mentions Snipply on item number 7. Yep. I'm going to paste it in here. and I'm going to click Create Snip the same way as I would use something like bit.ly to shorten a link. And you'll see now that I have the option to choose a call to action. On the right-hand side, you see the preview of the page. I have lots of call to actions set up here, some of the tests that I've run in the past. So let's say if I'm KPMG, you'll see in the preview there, it says subscribe to our digital magazine, enter your email. So another quick demonstration that it doesn't have to be a button. It could be an input form. You can take subscriptions on the spot through the links that you share. For the purposes of this, I'm just gonna do a quick demo. Let's just do, what is social media feeds, add a call to action. Let's do this one. So I'll click this, and you'll see that in the left bottom corner, it says Sniply. It's got our colors on it. It says add a call to action to every link you share, and it's got a link that links back to our landing page. Now, all I do is I hit snip, and Sniply is going to give me a new URL. This is the part that works very similar to bit.ly. When you shorten a link, bit.ly gives you a unique bit.ly link, and you share that link. Now, of course, with bit.ly, you don't really get anything beyond some simple analytics and a shorter link. With Sniply, this becomes a very unique experience for your visitors, where instead of visiting the entrepreneur.com link, if they visit this snip.ly/bdbtp, and I'll do this right now by entering it into, I'll just go to a new tab. Let's say you shared this link on Facebook or Twitter, somebody clicks on it, they will then be taken to the entrepreneur.com article, but now including the call to action that we added in the bottom left corner, add a call to action to every link you share. So that is, in a nutshell, how you can create a Sniply link using a call to action that you've set up ahead of time. So I want to take a short break here for anyone who has any questions. Because next what I want to go into is, of course, how do you set up the call to action? And that's, if anyone has any questions, I can address that, but I'm going to set up
questions, guys, pop them in the chat box. The one thing that I would like to say to anyone who's watching, who's a Media Connections member, your earned media, as Mike was just saying, your press coverage that you get when you share it and those sorts of things with your audience, sharing that earned media with a call out, with an opportunity, with a little call to action for people to subscribe to your newsletter is invaluable for building your own list and being seen by those people. So you're already adding your street cred by being seen by sharing the article. And I would strongly suggest that you all share any media you get, and then being able to add a subscribe to your newsletter or a follow me on Facebook. I gather we can add those as well, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love being able to
the call to action is completely in your control.
So it's about, you know, engaging, and even from your own blog content, Mike, in some ways, there would be, if I had a course coming up, I might be sharing a series of blogs, but being able to put a particular call to action for that one course or whatever's happening coming up, that would be awesome.
Yeah, you'll see in the example here, this is Oxfam sharing an article on Oxfam. And so don't be afraid to snip your own content, because it's an opportunity for you to have a very dynamic control over the call to action. So as you'll see here, they already have a donate button on the website, but as a marketer, you don't always want to go through the tech team or the web team to be able to change the call to action to the page. Using Sniply, you as a marketer can dynamically impact the call to actions on the page without touching a single line of code using the simple buttons that I pressed just now.
Fantastic. Mike, Uva's just asked me, was I saying incorporate Sniply into the media article? Not so much a press release, but once you've got the coverage. So popping your details in the Sniply, the link once you've got your piece of coverage, like Mike just did with the entrepreneur article, and using different call to actions. Beautiful. So I've answered that one. Yay. So we'll keep going, guys. With this is one. Sharon Morris, does a call to action always come in the lower left corner, Mike?
That's what I'm going to do. So what I'm going to show you now is setting up the call to action. So earlier we were selecting from a drop-down list of call to actions that I had set up ahead of time. But now let's walk through what it's going to look like if you're going to set up your own call to action. So I've just grabbed this article here. This is what my typical day looks like. Just a little teaser for next week for Lumen 5. Let's say I'm representing the Lumen 5 brand. Lumen 5 is a video creator. I come across this article, 5 tips for creating quality video content, even if you're clueless how to begin. Now, I can share this article and, of course, drive clicks to entrepreneur.com without any kind of exposure for my own brand. But what I can also do is set up a call to action, snip the link, and get something in return. So I'm going to, from the dashboard, you'll see that there's multiple tabs, brand profiles, call to actions, snipping links. What I'm going to do is set up a brand profile. So for those of you who are providing marketing services for different clients. This is a very important part to pay attention to, is because you can manage multiple brands. So you could create Snipply links, branded links on behalf of your clients. What I'm going to do now is I'll just click new brand to show you. It's very simple. You upload a logo, you type in a name, nothing complicated here. Since I already have a brand set up, I'm going to set up the call to action. So if you take on a new client, you first set up a brand profile. Very simple. You just upload their logo, type in their name. The call to action is where you get a lot of control over how you want the message to appear, what you want it to say. So once you've selected a brand, in this case, I'll just use the Lumen 5 brand because I'm using a video article, the entrepreneur.com, about creating videos. The first option you have is the different call to action types. So you'll see earlier that with the KPMG demo, there's a form. In the left bottom corner of the preview, again, you'll see a preview of what the call to action looks like. I can do a button, which is by far the most popular because you can link it anywhere you want. A text link is more of a stylistic choice. If you don't like buttons, you can have a hyperlinked text. A form allows you to capture emails or phone numbers or whatever you want to capture on the spot. It's a low barrier opportunity for someone to just give you one single piece of information. They click the check mark, you get it. You can hook this up to your MailChimp. You can hook it up to whatever.
Does it hook up to MailChimp?
That's right, you can, absolutely. You can also upload your own banner ad. So you can upload your own custom graphic if that's what you want to do. You can also do something called hidden, and this is something I'll go over a little later. It might be counterintuitive. Snipply is a product about adding a call to action, so why is there an option to hide it? Well, the answer for that is because there's a lot of invisible features that you can use Snipply for, such as adding retargeting pixels, which is a very, very popular feature, but also on-page analytics as well. So when you're sharing an article, Facebook or Twitter will give you simple analytics such as how many people clicked on it. But what's the bounce rate? How long are they reading the article for? How many pages are they reading after they click on your links? You don't get any of that information because if you shared a link to entrepreneur.com, all of the analytics belongs to them. Yep. But with Snipply, when they are on your Snipply link, you actually have access to the bounce rates, how long they're on the link for. So it just gives you more information to work with. And when it comes to content curation, it's all about optimizing for engagements. So despite the hidden being seemingly counterintuitive, it actually is a very powerful option. But for purposes of demonstration, I'm just going to click the button. Again, by far the most popular option. The next selection you have is the message, the button text, and where you want the button to go. This is where you type your call to action. So I can say, check out our new video creator. So that's my call to action. I want people to check out our new video creator. The button will be, let's say, sign up for free. And so you'll see that as I'm typing in the bottom left corner, the preview is being updated to show you what the call to action looks like. And of course, the button URL, I want them to go to lumen5.com. The button URL is where you want them to go. And this can be your landing page, it can be your Facebook page, wherever you want to drive your audience. So I'm going to hit continue here. This is the part where people were asking about. This is the customization. Does it have to be on the left bottom corner? And the answer is no. I can choose top lefts, and you'll see the preview updates. It's now sitting in the top lefts. But maybe I think it looks a little awkward to have a speech bubble in the top left. I have the option of themes as well, so I can choose a full width. Now you can see the preview. It looks more like a hello bar or what people add to their landing page. So I can make it look a bit more natural. If I feel like it's a bit more intrusive for my audience to have it right at the top, I can move the bar to the bottom so that after they're done reading the article, they can then engage with my call to action. Of course, color is a very important part of branding your links. There's a couple options here. I'll just move it back to the top just so it's a bit more clear. So the default is just a white background on a blue button. I want the background to really show up, so I'll use the Lumen 5 aqua blue. I'm not going to get the perfect color here, but if you have your own hex code, you can absolutely just put that in, make sure the branding's perfect. Yep. Now that I'm using a darker color, I want to change my text to white so that it stands out. And again, in the preview, it just updates. And then the button color, I want to make it very visible. Let's make it a light blue here, maybe a green, or maybe a yellow actually would look quite nice. And then now I've got a yellow button, it shines, but the button text color is now blending in, so now I change that to the black. So there's a lot of options you can do. I can do a green, so it's kind of a reverse color in here. Lots of customizations. As you can see, this call to action now looks completely different than what it did before. the white background and the blue button looked very default, very stock, but now I've got a highly customized call to action.
And
so
you
I go
can
ahead and
preset those brands in your branding section as
That's
well.
right.
Yep.
That's right. So that was the drop down that we saw. And we'll see it again. So I'm just going to finish this call to action. It immediately, conveniently gives me the option to create a link because, of course, that's what you want to do after you set up call to action. And it takes me back to the earlier experience that we saw. But instead of the 20 or the 17 tools, I'm going to use this 5 tips for creating video article. I'm going to drop it into Sniply the same way as you use any kind of link shortener. So you'll see now that in the drop down, or in the preview, you'll see as well. Earlier, we used this, I believe we used I don't know, it was one of these.
It was one.
So here's an example of a page fraud call to action, get your content, and then I can select from the drop down the call to action that we just created. Lumen 5 brand, check out our new video creator, sign up for free. Select that, everything looks good, it's pointing to the right place. I verify that the button goes to where I want it to go. I hit snip. Again, now Sniply gives me this unique link. And I can copy this. Of course, I can use the social buttons. I can share it to Facebook or Twitter. I can put it up on Buffer or Hootsuite if I want it to go to more places. And when people visit the link, this is what they see. I set out to share this article because I think my audience would find it useful to know tips on how to create quality video content. But now not only can they read the article in the top right there, that bar is what we set up in the blue color that we've chosen using the call to action that we've designated. And if I click the button, it will take us to lumen5.com, which is our landing page. And of course, when you created the link, it would be your landing page.
Sharon's just, sorry, Mike.
Yeah.
Sharon's just asked us, can we pop the call to actions on Facebook and websites?
So the call to actions uses something called an iframe, and iframes are normally only supported on content sites like on articles and news. Stuff like entrepreneur.com is a perfect example of content sites. On more secure site, it's more difficult to do that because especially if sites are password protected. So if you're trying to snip a link on eBay or Amazon, in those cases, we don't support it because then you're working with lots of sensitive information. From a marketing standpoint, as you can see, it's great to have a call to action on a page, but from a black hat and more malicious use case, we have to be very careful what we allow and don't allow. And that blends into a discussion that Linda and I had earlier, which is that Sniply has done a good job policing the malicious use case so that it's not blocked by ad block, it's not blocked by any kind of antivirus, which is a very important thing if you're sharing links.
Because I've seen lots of our members use link sharing tools, and the fact is they're great, but if you're getting blocked by a spam filter or something like that, then there's no point in being able to get there. The other thing, guys, that I just wanted to capture with you and Mike, you know, I've said for the Media Connections members, but also for our business authors, using it to when you share your articles, like Mike's doing with entrepreneur.com, it's your earned media. But even to the point of view of if you've got, like I was saying about blog posts and those sorts of things, about making sure that we're actually sharing our content, other people's content regularly. So I'm running a Facebook Live challenge. I know Jenny DeLacy, for example, is writing some amazing articles about Facebook Live. So I might incorporate some of her articles using Sniply in that process.
That's right.
In the lead up to the challenge. So
great question, by the way. There's definitely...
So Facebook most probably not, because it requires login. So if a site requires a login to read the content.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But the more common use case is that you would share the links on Facebook as opposed to add a call to action to Facebook. Because normally how content curation works is that social media is the platform of which you share the content and they are taken to the content. So in many cases, it's kind of counterintuitive to add the call to action onto Facebook itself. So that's one of the reasons why we haven't explored that use case further, is because from a content curation standpoint, this made a much more sense to us when we're developing products. Another thing I wanted to show was just before creating this link. As you can see earlier, it's snip.ly/T8KYC, and you might think, are people going to click on this link? Do they think it's maybe something they don't recognize? So you can actually edit the short link, and I can type video tips.
I like that.
Snip.ly/video tips, great for campaigns. A very popular tool for users who are running print campaigns, because when you're printing something out on a poster, you definitely don't want a string of characters.
You don't have that space.
Right. Another very cool feature is that this first part is customizable as well. So it doesn't have to say snip.ly. You can use your own custom domain. It's hard to demo because, of course, you have to own the domain. So you have to go to GoDaddy, maybe buy a $10 domain or something. But I do have a demo to show you on our homepage. So Experian is one of our users, and they have a custom domain set up. And this is what their links look like, ex.pn.
Okay.
All of their links are ex.pn. And you'll see in the URL bar here that it is ex.pn. And so you can customize both components of the link to make it look very friendly so that they can see, let's say it's linda.re.
Yep.
And they can see that, okay, this is Linda's link because it says Linda, that's the URL, and it says /livestream. And so they know that they can trust it because it's clearly something that you've set up.
Awesome, I like that idea. Pretty cool.
Heading back here. So I will just exit out. So far, we've covered setting up a brand profile, which is if you have your own brand, then you only need one brand profile. If you manage multiple clients with marketing services, then you would set up multiple brands. And then the call to action is differs from person to person. You'll see here in a quick snapshot that it's showing A/B variations of this call to action. So you can show A/B tests. You can show different variations of a single Sniply link so that at random, when people visit your link, a different call to action shows up and you can track the metrics. And I want to get a little deeper into analytics here. Again, I want to do a quick pause for anyone having any questions about the call to actions because I want to dive into analytics. That's the real exciting part. The analytics is the reason why you would want to use Sniply.
Mike, can we also look at the integrations as well, please, so that the members can see what we're using existing and they can look at what tools that they can integrate with as well? That would be awesome.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, it's just a page of logos, but I'll go through the high-level concept of how integrations work, is especially using tools like Buffer or Hootsuite. If you're sharing links through those platforms, that's the core of which the integration works. We have a very great, for example, integration with Buffer, where you can, once you set it up, it automatically adds a designated call to action to all of the links in your sharing queue so that in theory, you never have to interface with the Sniply platform. Once you set up the integration, you're just buffering links and they will all automatically contain your call to action. There are some other forms of integration such as MailChimp, which we talked about earlier. You can hook up the subscription form on your call to action directly to your mailing list so that you don't have to do anything manual. It's just a fully automated experience. And most of these integrations are adaptations of the same concept. So Buffer, Hootsuite, HubSpot, the Edgar, Social Pilot, they're all platforms where you share links, and the integrations is about adding the call to action so that you don't have to snip each link individually. And then you've got MailChimp and Campaign Monitor, GetResponse, which are similar to the sending data to your mailing list so that you don't have to do that manually.
That would be awesome.
My favorite integration are the browser integration. So Chrome, Firefox, very important. It saves me a lot of time. So I'll just do a quick demo of that.
Yep.
You see here back at the article, this one is without the call to action. You'll see that on the right top corner, I have a Sniply Chrome extension that I've installed. I click it and it's just going to snip this page. I don't have to go to the dashboard. I don't have to go anywhere. Yeah. It just basically brings up the user interface that we just showed earlier onto the current page that you're on. Let's say I want to create this link again. I snip it, I get the link, I copy it to my clipboard, and I can just cross that out. I'm back exactly at where I started. And I did all of that without going to the Sniply dashboard. And so the browser extension is very handy for you to snip the page you're currently visiting. Especially
when you're wanting to share content. That's awesome.
Yep, absolutely. Because you're reading it, so you're there.
Yep, definitely want to be sharing live. Oh, that's awesome. Love it. I'm loving all this. So it's all good. Has anyone got any questions for us so far, or are we ready to move on into the analytics at this stage?
Well, we can dive into the analytics, yeah. And if anybody has any questions afterwards,
we'll answer them all. Yep.
Okay, so here is a prime example of A/B testing. So you'll see that in this single call to action, which contains, it looks like this call to action has 84 links. So there are 84 links hooked up to this call to action. This call to action has 4 variations. So I'll repeat that again because I know it gets a little complicated. A single call to action, of course, when we were selecting it from a drop-down, meaning that multiple links can share the same call to action. If you create a link and you choose a call to action, that link is now tied to that call to action. In this call to action here, which I've just called it social media feeds because it's what I use on social media, there's 84 links tied to this call to action. And within this call to action, I can do A/B testing. So you'll see that I have 4 variants of my call to action. I can hover over it to show you what it looks like. Create social video content in minutes, make a video. And these are to drive traffic and raise awareness for our video creator platform. And you'll see that they have slightly different stats. One is converting at 2.6%, one is converting at 1.99%. And so what you're seeing here is relatively competitive conversion rates, because before I optimized through A/B testing, there were definitely call to actions that were vastly underperforming, such as 0.1% or 0.5%. And so what you would do is, what I would do is probably cut off this 1.99% and add a new A/B testing variation until I keep optimizing for it upwards and improving that conversion rates.
Awesome.
And so the fact that there is a conversion at all is the magic of Sniply. Because normally, if you're just sharing an article, conversion is almost always 0. What you have here is a conversion rate, which means people have actually interacted with the brand, clicked on it, and moved to your landing page.
Yep, awesome.
Now for us, the stats are usually lower than what we see in our users because we are Sniply and our call to action is to tell them about Sniply. So it's not always the most effective for us particularly.
Yep.
And our audience is primarily our own users. And our call to action had always just been to sign up for Sniply, and most of them have already signed up for Sniply. So you'll see that this is the past 30 days. So we have a lot more stats than this, but in the past 30 days, we have created 84 Sniply links. We have 1,921 clicks, which means the link was clicked on about almost 2,000 times. 22 of those people have seen the call to action, clicked through, and landed on our landing page. Verified conversion is less important. I haven't really played around with this one in particular, but what you would do with that is if you have a purchase page especially, you can place a pixel on a thank you page to verify that not only did they visit your landing page, but they actually made a purchase.
Wow.
It's a metric that's very powerful for e-commerce because if you want to track purchases, that's the way to go. And so what I've seen is that call to action conversion rate. A lot of people like to ask, of course, what is the average conversion rate of your products? And what we've seen is that it really depends on the call to action. It really depends on your products. For example, if a realtor gets 1 conversion, that could be his earnings for the year. And so it really depends on what you're doing. One example that I've always loved is Greenpeace shares lots of petitions, and their call to actions go up to 30%, 40%, because they're sharing an article about a cause. And people who follow Greenpeace care passionately about the cause. They see the call to action to sign a petition, they act. And so depending on your call to action, you could see very high conversion rates. But it's all about testing. It's all about optimizing, A/B testing, figuring out what kind of messaging works. But what Sniply brings to the table is the opportunity to have a voice in the links that you share so that you can say something instead of nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And I suppose, Mike, would it also come down to the ease of the call to action? So not over bombarding someone with the sorts of things. So if you're wanting a call to action, from my point of view, I'm thinking if you're wanting a call to action for a sign up to a newsletter list or a sign up to get an ebook, put the form in. Don't make them go and visit a landing page and then fill in the form.
Yeah, it's very similar to writing a Google ad. You have a very finite amount of space. How do you communicate something that sounds enticing? Another thing we've learned is that what we call active and passive call to action. So you have a call to action that's learn more. It's going to be less effective than get this now for free. If you have a free ebook and you really have an offer and there's a reason for them to click on that, if we're giving away free services for the next 48 hours, click here to claim, you will see a better conversion if there's a more enticing offer as opposed to click here to learn more about our products. So that's something that isn't really specific to Sniply. It's just general, the writing of call to action. There's definitely an art form to writing call to actions. But the technology is what enables, the Sniply technology is what enables you to have that call to action there. So the conversion rate isn't so much tied to Sniply as much as it is how are you writing the call to action? What are you offering? How relevant is it to your audience?
Yep. Beautiful. Fantastic.
Yeah, so that's the analytics part. I mean, it gets much deeper. You know, you can track, as I mentioned earlier, time on page, bounce rates. You can see graphs of what days, and you can get very nitty gritty. You can break them down on a per link basis to see which link is performing, has the highest conversions. There's traffic sources. So it comes with all the things that you would expect from a service like this. You're sharing links to the platform, and of course it gives you lots of information to work with. But I can, for example, sort this by conversions, and I can see that this one has 9 clicks and 8 conversions. That's a very high rate.
You like that one?
Yeah, maybe I would want to. Maybe I want to share it again. Maybe I actually copy it, and then maybe I recycle that and share it.
Yep.
Dropped you guys for a second there.
Yeah.
But yeah, what I would do is maybe share this again, because it seems.
Absolutely, it's converting well.
Yeah, and you can see that sometimes you can break down, you know, why did it perform so well. So you might look at the links, and here I'm seeing that this article is actually talking specifically about Facebook videos, and my call to action is specifically talking about creating videos in minutes. So I can start to learn what our audience is responding to, what is working, what is not, and optimize my strategy from there.
And two reasons for that, guys, is purely, you know, the audience is responding to that article. So maybe it's worthwhile writing and creating some content around that yourself, as well as
That's right.
To share it.
That's right. So I see here that, you know, this is tips about getting more views on Facebook. I might take that as an inspiration, write my own blog post.
Yeah. Mike, can we, I suppose we're not running out of time, but I want to open up for questions and answers and that sort of stuff, and keep our viewers engaged as much as we are as well. What would be your top 5 times that you would use a call to action? So maybe 5 instances that our members can walk away and go, yep, I should be using Sniply to put a call to action that they may not have thought of, or your top 5 ones that you would love to see people using for.
I think one thing that's very cool about Sniply is all the links are dynamic, so you can edit them long after you've created them. As I mentioned earlier, all of these 84 links hook up to this one call to action, and they could get discovered months or years later if they've been shared on some blog. But what I can do is actually dynamically change the call to action. Let's say I have an event coming up or a webinar coming up. I can change all of my hundreds or thousands of links, immediately change all of their call to actions to sign up for my webinar. So no matter where people are discovering these links, they will see my most updated call to action and engage with that. And then once the webinar is over, I change it back to what they were before. And so that having that level of control to all of your links is definitely a top reason for using Sniply. And you asked for top 5, right?
Yeah, come on, there's going to be, you've got 5 ways to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was definitely one. Another one is retargeting. We didn't get too deep into it. Retargeting is less fun to demo because it's kind of invisible. But I'll just show you that in a brand profile, you actually have the option to, here's how you set up custom domain, by the way. So another possible reason for using Sniply is to have your own custom link as opposed to sharing something like Bitly, which is unbranded. It just gives that layer of reputation, I guess. When we look at content curation, it's not just about our immediate followers, because our followers also share what we've shared. And so you can expect your links to reach a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th degree of network. And the custom domain just helps you stand out a bit more. So on to retargeting pixels. This is where you can drop the retargeting pixel code. If you're running any kind of ad campaigns like Facebook or Google, they have retargeting code for you. For those who are not familiar with how retargeting works, traditionally you can only retarget people who visit your landing page. And the purpose of retargeting is if they've come to your page, you can then show ads to the people who visited your page, because they've kind of self-identified as somewhat relevant because they went to your page. With Sniply, you can add a retargeting code to all of your links, meaning that it expands your retargeting potential, not to just people who visited your page, but to people who visited any of your links. Again, this goes back to the 2nd, 3rd, 4th degree network, because it's not just about the people who are already following you, because when they share an article, they're more likely to click on it and join your retargeting pool. And content tends to be a lot more click-worthy, because if you're just sharing a link to your landing page, your followers are unlikely to be really gung-ho about sharing your landing page to a 3rd, 4th, 5th degree network, whereas content inherently delivers value, and when people find it interesting or emotional, they'll share it. So retargeting is definitely very high up there, number 1 or 2 in terms of powerful use cases, because it then gives you a better ROI on money that you're already spending on Facebook, Twitter, and Google ads. Another thing that's really powerful is the form. So I showed you the button earlier, but the form works really well. I want to reiterate that you don't have to capture emails. You can capture phone numbers for, I know a lot of businesses operate primarily on calling someone for, or maybe it's a timely service and you call someone to talk about the business opportunity. And so maybe you want to capture SMS, text messages, as opposed to emails.
Yep.
And it gives you a really easy way to take in, it's a free form text field. So if you want people to put in their email, you can. If you want people to put in your phone number, they can. The form is very high up there in terms of popularity. And then another thing is bounce rate. I think we're on number 4 now.
Yeah.
Bounce rate is something that I love to look at. In this call to action, there's not a lot of data. But when I'm sharing an article, I really want to know as a content curator, are people engaging with this link that I've shared, or do they not like it? And so knowing the bounce rate and knowing how long they're spending on the article gives me a lot of insights as to, am I sharing the right type of content? Because content curation is in and of itself an art form as well. You're not just sharing random articles, because if people don't see that you're sharing relevant information, they will stop engaging, they'll unfollow, and they will value you less as a thought leader and influencer. And so having the ability to track engagement for links that I share is very powerful, because now then I can go back and look at what has the lowest bounce rate, what subject has the highest time on site, and then adjust my content curation strategy accordingly. And it's a very rare opportunity, because as content curators, it's very difficult for us to measure whether we're sharing the right articles, because we're driving traffic to somebody else's website where we don't have access to the analytics. So that kind of falls through the cracks and simply brings that opportunity back into your hands. And then the 5th, last but not least, we mentioned it briefly before, earned media, I think, is very powerful. Keep an eye on any mentions of your brand out there, people talking about your product or your service. When somebody writes about you, it's such a great opportunity to make the most out of it, share the article, maybe even use that article and turn it into a Facebook ad to make sure as many people see it as possible. And then, of course, making the most out of that earned media piece to add your call to action. Depending on the earned media, sometimes it's a dedicated post just about your brand, but sometimes, like ours, we are one of 7 or one of 14. Or maybe your top 100 tools or top 100 service provider in a space. And you can use Snipply to kind of bring your brand forward and stand out from the rest of the article, and make sure that your users have clear instructions on how to engage with your brand. So that would be my top 5.
Fantastic. Okay, guys, if anyone's got any other questions for Mike and I, feel free to pop them into the box. Mike, we're actually going to run on time, aren't we? Yay.
I think we did last time too. We're usually pretty good on this.
Twice we're running on time. Doing well. So if anyone's got any questions, please pop them into the box. Now, Mike, you put together a bit of a special offer for our members too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
And
did you share it on Facebook?
Not yet. No, they have to be here first. I like them to be here first. There is a bear with me. I'm going to grab it up. I did have it on my screen this morning. There is a special code that Mike has given us to give our members a bit of a discount. Just 2 seconds, guys. I decided to shut that down when Facebook wasn't working, so bear with me. I was all prepped a minute ago. Here we go. Let's have a look. I know the code's here. Here we go.
That's the joy of finishing early.
Joy of finishing early. I could have opened up earlier. Okay, so guys, Mike has given us the opportunity, if you use the code BBB Skills, and I'll give you a little link to getting through, so that you can get through. But the BBB Skills is your code to being able to use, and I'm popping it into the chat box now. And for those watching the webinar replay, it will also be there as well. So there's a little link to go and follow these Snipply plans. Mike, actually, most probably is handy to run people through the pricing structure as well, if we've got time to do it while we're here, and just explain what's in each plan, all sorts of things.
I will hop back into screen share real quick.
Think about that. We haven't done that. So there we go. And guys, in the chat box, you will find the code and the link to take you through to Simply to being able to get yourself a little bit of a deal. And it's 20%, isn't it, Mike? Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, 20% off. So good opportunity to follow the link and get in there and get yourself a bit of a discount.
So you see my screen, right?
I can see your screen again.
Yeah, we'll quickly go through pricing. If you've joined us on my previous webinar where we talked about Lumen 5, you'll probably know that we as a team believe very strongly in having a very powerful free plan.
Yep.
There's no exception here. Our belief is always that you should have full access to most of the core functionality without paying anything. So if you visit Simply, and I'll just show you in an incognito tab where I'm not logged in, there's a big get started for free button. You can create a free account without paying anything, no credit card, and you'll be able to create links, unlimited links. Where we build our business on is the number of clicks per month that you service, and that allows us to, if BuzzFeed wants to use Snipply and they share 10 billion clicks, yep, that's where we charge the money. And so the free plan supports up to 1,000 clicks per month. So if you are within 1,000 clicks per month, you never have to pay anything to use most of the core functionality that we've demonstrated here today. You'll see that in the pricing plans here, each plan does come with a little more advanced functionality. So the free plan comes with a default blue button on the white background, but it still gives you the opportunity to add the call to action with the button, take people where you want them to go. With the basic plan upgrade, you can start to customize the color and have access to some different types of call to actions. On the $79 Pro plan, you have more marketing targeted features such as retargeting and A/B testing. On the business tier, what we call the complete white labeled experience. So if you want to completely brand your links, you can remove the Snipply logo, use your own custom domain as opposed to snip.ly. And then the agency is more of if you're running a service where you're creating links on behalf of many, many different clients. You'll see in the pricing table here that it supports 15 different brand profiles. So that's how the pricing is. And again, if you're under 1,000 clicks per month, never have to pay a dime, create unlimited links without credit card.
That is awesome. Mike, yeah. I would like to say thank you for putting together such a tool. And in all honesty, guys, I'm going to most probably spend the next couple of hours having a play on Snipply further myself because I haven't used it to the full benefit because I sort of went and said to Mike, would you come do a webinar with us first before I got in there. But I really do see the power of branding it. For those of you who don't know, the Facebook Live challenge is coming up. I've got a series of tips about going Facebook Live that I'm literally going to put a call to action to sign up for the next challenge for those links to help me to get out there. So I can already see ways that I can use it. For coaches and mentors out there, if you haven't even considered, I don't know if you considered this at all, but do your discovery calls, put a link to your booking calendar for people to book in if they're reading your articles or they're reading your earned media or your guest posts, put a call to, really good way of having a call to action on content that you've already got out there. So please, by all means, look at that option as well. I strongly suggest that you're looking at those sorts of things. And even your sales page, because some people will land on your sales pages, but they're not ready to take action on a course or on something sales orientated. So give them the option to sign up to your newsletter or something like that so that they can stay in the loop about those sorts of things. So there's my ideas of how you could possibly use it. Mike has given you an amazing code to save 20% off the plans, but also has free access for you to be able to use. If anyone's got any last minute questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat box. Otherwise, I will say we'll be being joined by Mike next week to discover more of Lumen 5. Now, if you attended the last Lumen 5 webinar, I cannot strongly enough suggest that you come back. There has been so many changes I've been trying to keep up with as a Lumen 5 user, but there's so many changes, so many new features being introduced to Lumen 5. If you loved it last time, you really need to be back for this one. And if you haven't looked at the Lumen 5, what it does is you put your blog post URL into a lovely box or into their RSS feed, and it takes that blog post and turns it into video you can share on social media. Mike, it looks like we are free of questions, so we must have answered them all the way as we were going along. So I'd like to thank you for joining us again today, and look forward to having a chat with you again next week.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and thank you everyone for your time for joining us today, and I will see you all again soon.
Bye. See you guys.
Take care, everyone. Bye.